So, hello, good evening. My name is David Abramowitz. I am a regional tech lead for Trend Micro. Been here 20 plus years. Good Lord. Also taking part in the Trend Micro Internet Safety for Kids and Families program, which I love. I've been doing it with Lynette as soon as she said, "Hey, you want to do this?" I'm like, yes, in 2012, I think it was. Indeed. So we've been at it. Oh, wow. It's almost the 10-year anniversary. Fantastic. So it's one of several volunteer programs at Trend Micro that form the basis of why it's such a fantastic place to work, I think. So that's who I am. I am based out of Gaithersburg, Maryland. Woohoo! But I'm from New York. I have three kids, or young adults now, I guess they are, 19, 22, and 24, boy, girl, girl. So I have been through all of the painful nonsense that you guys are, that all of you are probably going through in the midst of with your own kids. And I'm joined tonight by our founder and global director of the ISKF program, Lynette Owens, out of Boston, where actually I went to school, Brandeis University.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I too have been with Trend Micro for quite a while, and I just hit my 20-year anniversary this September. I also just put a link in the chat. That's the wrong form that was sent in the chat. So I volunteer for our youth soccer organization too, and that was a sign-in thing for our coaches.
That's
Equipment.
beautiful. Hey, if anyone wants
Yes.
to bring equipment, we need flags and
That's right.
and some extra
Yeah.
soccer balls for the next practice. But
So this form that I just put in the chat is actually the sign-in. So very, very sorry about that. But now you know a little more about me.
look at that. You know, I
Very
invite you
involved
and
in.
you just sabotage my presentation,
Yeah,
right?
sorry.
Right from the I'm not
Sorry
even at
about
the
that.
first slide yet.
So
Good for
again,
you.
if you're just joining and you want to listen in Spanish, I know some people have just joined. Please pick the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and select Spanish, and you can hear our colleague Gigi interpreting in Spanish for tonight's session. So
Yes, not in
very
German.
nice to meet everyone.
Perfecto. So let's get going. So before we begin, a few house cleaning items. The first one, obviously, Lynette has plopped in the chat window. That's our sign-in sheet for you. Number two, just a reminder to submit all your questions anytime using the Q&A button, and we will get to them. I'll take frequent breaks to look over there for questions. And at the end of the presentation tonight, there'll be a survey. Please fill that in before you exit. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us make improvements, changes, and take care of that. So let's go with a poll. And our first poll question tonight is, how old is your oldest child? Go ahead and answer A if 5 or under, B 6 to 10, C 11 to 14, D older than 15 or older. And the results are pouring in. Dun, 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 dun. All right, looks like they're evening out.
Yeah, we have a winner. We definitely have a winner.
We've got a couple of people just hopping in now. If you want to jump in on the poll question there, you should be seeing the poll on your screen. I see some people are putting in the chat. That's okay. But the winner chicken dinner is going to be B, 6 to 10. And nobody has 11 to 14, and pretty even numbers of 5 and younger and 15 or older. So that's good. This is right sort of in the sweet spot of most of the kids that we visit and talk to. So that's usually when we do a volunteer program, we go out and talk to schools ranging from elementary all the way through middle, sometimes a high school here and there. But we talk to both the kids separately in their own program and also present to parents like we're doing tonight. All right, so it looks like most of us have children in the 6 to 10-year-old range. And let's do another one. And let's see, my polls button disappeared. There it is. Okay, so we're going to Go to the next one here, which is, what are you most interested in hearing about and or discussing tonight? So answer A, managing screen time for my kids. B, helping my kids stick to age appropriate content. C, dealing with online bullying or hate. D, ideas for positive uses of the internet. And E, I don't know, just here to learn something, hang with people, have a good time. Let's see. Oh boy. Okay. Well, it was all one answer. Now it's divvying up a little bit. For those of you just joining, there is a link in the chat window that Lynette put up just most recently. So click on that link to sign in for us if you would. And we're going to end the poll because it looks like a very slanted answer here, which is B, helping my kids stick to age appropriate content. That is absolutely a challenge for sure. Right behind that, ideas for positive uses of the internet, which is really nice to see because Lynette and I love to put those forth because it's not all about just what you shouldn't do or where you shouldn't go, but things that are really helpful for kids when they're young to make good habits of and showcase their talents and sort of start their own digital portfolio that's going to help them later. All right. We'll put that poll away for now. Okay, so no surprise here, right? A lot has changed this past 18 months, and now thanks to Omicron, who knows when we're ever going to get out of this cycle. But the kids are back in school with masks. Some are still taking remote. But even with all that's been going on, a lot of things have not changed. Number one, the kids still need our guidance, right? Now they have not a whole nother set of challenges, but the challenge of having additional screen time and maybe being at home and doing so much remote. They're going to be on the systems a lot longer, and they're going to need even more guidance, our guidance, teaching them how to use technology in ways that are safe and healthy and positive for sure. The risks aren't going away. There are risks to their privacy, the security of their information, even personal safety, overuse now that there's a lot of use at home, inappropriate content, which a lot of you brought up as a concern, and bullying. Of course, it's even more potent now because it can be so anonymized, right? A lot of kids will say a lot of different or more aggressive things when they can't be seen or when they can hide behind a social media ID. And anxiety as well. A lot of kids very anxious about things that are going on, and it doesn't help sometimes what they hear and what they see online. Don't exactly make that a better situation. So as we're learning, there's great benefits to technology too, right? It's not all the negative stuff. Now that we're during the pandemic and we're home a lot more, and home is the safe zone, but it also allows us to connect with others in a different way and in more expansive ways. And the kids are constantly learning to do all kinds of new and different things in terms of communicating. So our goal is to teach children what good digital citizenship is all about and why that's still so important and such a priority. We'll get more into what that is right now. So what is digital citizenship? A bunch of things. Number one, safety and security. So in the same way that you wouldn't send your kid down a dark alley in real life, right? There are places on the internet that aren't so great, or apps that take advantage of information in not so great ways. Security of that information, right? So making sure all the devices that our kids use have security software on them and are helping prevent them from getting exploited, their device getting exploited somehow. Digital literacy, so the skills, we don't give our kids keys to a car when they're 16 and say, congratulations, you're of driving age, here's the keys, go drive, right? They have to take driving lessons. They have to go to school for it. They have to take written tests. They have to take road tests. But if you'll notice, there's nothing like that for the internet. The internet is basically boop, plug it in and off you go. So there's a lot we can do to help teach our kids how to do some basic things and also help them do things that are better for them, especially for their future. Ethics and community is another element of digital citizenship, in the same way that we want our kids to behave ethically in school and at home and with friends and with relatives and in restaurants and all that good stuff. The same applies online to make sure that they represent the best part of themselves all the time and take part in the good communities. And mastery, right? Because these skills are obviously part of just about every job out there. And the more we can teach the kids how to use those skills in positive ways, the better off they're going to be later on. So there's 4 different segments of what we're going to talk about here tonight. And those are be online, be safe, be savvy, and be kind. So the first one, be online, talking about how to set up the environment, what are the rules as to when, where, how, etc., and providing an example. Be safe, we're talking about privacy there, right? Information privacy, phone numbers, email addresses, physical locations. If you ever take a picture with a camera on your phone automatically stores the exact latitude and longitude that picture was taken. So there's a lot of information we actually maybe unintentionally give out in terms of information privacy. And being safe for oneself. Be kind is the next one. So not only to others, but even more importantly to yourself. As a kid, there are so many pressures, even more maybe than we had as kids nowadays. There's a lot of online beauty contests on Instagram and apps like that. So it's very easy for kids to internalize negative images of themselves and negative opinions of themselves. So it's really important to address that. And lastly, be savvy, which is all about good habits on the internet, good uses of the internet, because there are plenty of ways that kids can showcase their skills and, like I said before, build up a nice digital portfolio for their future. Any questions so far? No questions. Okay, great. All right, so let's talk about setting up the environment. So the first thing is, number one, we want an environment set up for our physical health, right? We want first our eyes to be focused and not strained as much as possible. Lynette often talks about the 30-30-30 rule. Every 30 minutes for 30 seconds, look at something 30 feet away. So we're just refocusing our eyes, giving our eyes a chance to rest. Blue light glasses are also something that people will use to help with the strain. And you can get those pretty much anywhere that sells glasses. Posture, of course, it's important to have a good seat with good back support, since we spend so much time sitting, and the kids are going to be spending a lot of time sitting, especially if they're doing online classes, and they may not always do them in the most ergonomic location, right? Sometimes they'll just want to lay in bed with their laptop or sit on the floor or something like that. So it's really important to really have a focused place to do that kind of learning, so that we're supporting our kids with good posture. So a good chair, good desk, and more importantly, even just take breaks, and that's get up and walk around, walk the dog, take a walk outside, just getting up and getting our eyes and our body away from the screen every so often. So that's our physical health. Now let's talk about keeping the network running, which is what we're all using at home. So number one is limit access to your router. Now, if you were to go in your coat closet or somewhere in your office maybe, or a bedroom hidden somewhere behind a rug, is your router that's providing you your internet access at home, which connects directly back to Verizon or Comcast or whoever serves you. On the back of that router is a sticker which has the administrator name and the password that you use to log in with your web browser to change the configuration of your router. Now, anyone that sees that router who's in your home can just turn it around and immediately see how to log into your router. So the first thing you want to do when you get that is to change the password it came with, and don't share it. And any updates that are available for the router, there might be some firmware updates, etc. Take care of those. So you may have never logged into your router before because you just say, hey, there's internet in my house and it just works. Yes, but, or yes, and go ahead and change that password right away and do not share it so that you're the only one who can access the router. Because believe me, if your kids can get in there, they will, and they may not configure things the way that you would like them to. And you're the one paying for the internet, so it's your choice. Number two is a lot of us don't realize that the router also has two separate networks. And I'm not talking about 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz. I'm talking about the routers have a main network, whatever you've named your network, and there's also a guest network. Now, what's important, especially now that a lot of us are working at home, Lynette and I included, we rarely go into an office. Home is the office. So we don't want the Hue light bulbs and the smart door lock and the smart switches and the fans and all the gadgets on the same network as, say, the work laptop is on now. So my laptop is on the main network, and all of the gadgets and the kids' devices and the PlayStation and whatever else are on the guest network. So there's a separation between the two. And that's not only for security reasons, to make sure that, for instance, those devices don't have built-in security to them all the time, right? They're just a smart light bulb. Oh, but if someone figures out how to get into smart light bulb or into, there was actually an incident on a fish tank, and one of our government customers had a fish tank inside with a little smart heater on it. The smart heater was exploited. There was a vulnerability on the software running on it. It was attached to, and now they had access to the rest of the network from a fish tank. So that's why it's important to separate the main and the guest and put all the toys on the guest network. You're on the main network, and that's it. So your work stays separate from the rest of the environment. And every router pretty much has that feature and functionality. The third thing is you might need a Wi-Fi extender. So again, Verizon, Comcast, whoever provides your internet, you've got a router. If you've got, let's say, 3 stories in your house and the internet connection is slow or not so great on the top floor, but it's great on the first, they'll sell you an extender. You put the extender on the second or third floor. That will communicate with the main router on the first floor and beam the availability of the internet to those dead spots. So that's one thing that you might need depending on how you're set up at home. And lastly is to stagger the time online. I know this sounds kind of funny, but if you think about it, with everyone at home and so many of us doing streaming, so we're on Zoom. I'm on Zoom meetings all day, and those are a big hog for bandwidth for video, live video and audio streaming in real time. And you couple that with the kids want to watch whatever they want to watch. They're streaming on Netflix, and they're streaming with Apple TV and with Amazon, all those streaming services. Again, big bandwidth hogs. So it makes sense sometimes to stagger those things. So maybe there's a schedule that you set up where from 2 to 5 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. no streaming because I'm Zooming. And then from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., whatever it is, so you can stagger the use. So not everyone is hogging all the bandwidth at once. Any questions? No questions yet. Okay. Next is securing everything. So being from a security company, that seems like a rather obvious thing for us to say, but it's not always obvious what to secure or that security is available on a device. Basically, you want security software on every device. And that includes your phones, that includes your tablets, that includes your game systems, There's security for that as well. You can put a little device, attach it to your router, and do a lot of your security there. But every device that connects to the internet should have security software on it. Next is turning on your firewall. If you're not familiar with what a firewall is, it's basically a traffic cop. This traffic is allowed in, this is not. This traffic is allowed out, this is not. So important to turn that on. Your computer will sort of know what the normal traffic is if you're on a laptop, and it will not allow anything else in that shouldn't be in, and out as well. So it's a good way sometimes, especially for if you're running unfamiliar applications, to figure out where they're connecting to and what they're connecting to and whether that's something you want or not. Next is using strong passwords and change them often. So I'm going to show you an example of this in a minute. But when I say strong passwords, it's the typical menu for a password, which is uppercase, lowercase, special symbols. In a lot of cases now, spaces are allowed, which is a very good way of making your password more complex. So I'll show you that in a sec. Next is multi-factor authentication. Big buzzwords, but to boil it down, all it really means is something I have and something I know. So something you know is your password. That's one factor. And something you have is your phone. So you probably know that when you, let's say, log into your banking website, they'll send a code to your phone to make sure it's you. You'll get the code on your phone. You'll have to punch that in, and now you're in. So that's multi-factor. That's two-factor in this case. One factor is something I know, my password, and then I'm asked for the second thing, which is the code that they push to my phone to make sure it's me. Websites have, like the banking websites have that. Applications have that as well in a lot of cases. So wherever two-factor authentication is available to you, turn it on. It's going to really help you in keep your account safe and locked up. Next, another big buzzword group there, use a virtual private network or VPN. So what that basically does, to boil that down, is it takes the communication from your device, let's say your laptop, and where it's going, let's say your office, and it creates a secure tunnel for that communication to happen over so that nobody can see what's going on there, right? Because a lot of hackers and such will try to break into the network and sniff. We call that sniffing the traffic, and figure out things from there. This prevents that from happening if it's inside a VPN. Oh, there was a question, but it disappeared. Okay.
I'm taking care of them, Dave. I might be able to answer them there.
Oh, all right. If anything comes up that I can help with, just let me know.
Yep.
All right. Practicing good habits. So first, update, right? It's not always just to be a pain in your neck that things need updating like apps, but a lot of times it's because they've resolved security issues and vulnerabilities in those applications. Microsoft basically issues their patches on what's called Patch Tuesday. So if you run Windows, you get a whole mess of updates on Tuesday. But you also want to update all the time. Just set your devices to update automatically, and you should be fine. Or just do it manually every night if you want. But again, a lot of those are to solve security issues in the apps themselves. So it's important to do those updates. So getting back to the password issue, right? Here's an example of something that might be, it could go either way. Like the phrase "might need to buy more toilet paper soon" can be the MN2B. So that has uppercase, lowercase numbers and a special symbol. If you want to make that more complicated, and the website or application allows spaces in your password, even better, right? Because it will take a farm of computers much longer to decode or guess a password that's separated with the spaces and has all the extra characters in them too, right? But at the very least, make it something like this that triggers. So if you know your password stands for might need to buy more toilet paper soon, and you know it's MN2B empty, it's a way to remember your password. So even that one is better than the most popular password out there, which is unfortunately password. And that's why we see a lot of Facebook accounts getting compromised, because passwords like that are used. So do not use simple English words, even if you've substituted a letter for a number for one of the letters. Make them complex, but something that you can remember, like this, so that you can keep your account better
Dave,
secured.
sorry, I just want to
Go
jump
ahead.
in on this one
Yep.
here. With your younger children, since many of you do have younger children, um, because they're not using too many apps or games or devices yet, then teaching them the basics of why this is a strong password and why something else is not a strong password is a really good basic skill. For you as adults, and also as your children get older, it might be better to use a password manager because there's too many to remember now.
Mm-hmm.
And using a password manager, Trend Micro has one, Google has one, there's a lot of options for you, is probably a better way to handle multiple passwords. But when your children are young, this skill is the best way to start to teach them the importance.
Yeah. Thanks, Lynette. I think a good analogy for that is tell your kids, explain it to them like it's Hangman, except you're playing with a computer instead of a person. So if my password is password, how long is it going to take a human to guess that? Not very long, right? You're going to get the A, you're going to get the O. When you get the S, you're in really good shape, and then you figure it out. So if it takes you not that long, imagine what it takes a whole bank of computers, how long it takes them to guess that password. Less than a second, they'll get something like password, right? So the challenge there is to make it at least a little more complex than just a regular word. So the hangman analogy is a good thing. Just tell them that you're playing hangman against a computer. So try to outwit the computer as much as you can. And the third thing is backup. A good strategy that I know a lot of people use is to make a physical backup, like an external USB drive. When the backup is done once a week, make that backup and store it somewhere else. So if you live near a friend or parent or a sibling, put the drive over there and then bring it back. You don't want to keep everything. That's like the super paranoid strategy, right? So if God forbid, your house catches fire, all your data doesn't go with it either. Now, another way to do that these days also to be efficient is to obviously back up with one of there are tons of online backup services that allow you to back up the entire contents of your computer. So, and your devices as well. They back up, if you're Apple, to iCloud, for instance. It's very cheap and efficient to do that. It does not cost a lot of money, and you can share that storage with the rest of the family, for instance. So everyone can back up their phones to one account where they're stored online. For laptops and desktop computers, again, there's a bunch of online storage. Things like iCloud are good, but they only back up what's in your documents folder. So if you wanted to back up the entire contents of your machine to be able to recover in a disaster, you're going to have to back that up to either an online storage site that allows you to do the entire contents and back up to a physical device too, just in case, right? You want to cover all your bases to make sure you can get your data whenever you need it. So what about the tech tools that we have? So tech tools help filter age-appropriate content. And there was a lot of interest in that tonight. We'll talk about that. They also help with in-app purchases. I'm sure all of you remember, or most of you remember the article about the kid who borrowed mom's phone and racked up a number of charges on her Visa because the game that she was playing, you could buy jewels and buy this and buy that and buy this and buy that. And if they know mom's password for the account, then they can buy freely. So a big surprise Visa bill at the end of the month is not something you want. So you can use tools, which we'll talk about, to monitor and police in-app purchases or prevent them altogether. Tools help with time online, and they also help monitor what the kids are doing. And they're available just about everywhere, which some of them might be a surprise, right? So on the router, you've got these capabilities. On gaming devices, your internet service provider may provide them for you. Security software, of course, app stores, whether Apple or Google Play, the apps on those sites as well, and apps themselves. So they'll have some tools within them, and we'll show you some of those tonight. So here's one tool if you're an Apple iOS person. One of the tools on iOS is called Screen Time. And what Screen Time does, as you might guess, is it tracks how much time you're actually using the screen. So if you go to Settings and then to Screen Time, you'll see under your Family section here in this picture, I believe this is Lynette's very own screenshot.
Yes, it
where
is.
you'll see members of the family, grayed out for security purposes. And under your family, you can see anyone who's part of, in this case, your iTunes or your iCloud account. Even kids that are younger than 13 can be set up for this. And once you click on a user, you'll be able to see their screen time and also get some set some downtime and application limits. So you can even schedule when they should be off the screen and daily limits for certain app categories. So again, this is a device that you provided to them, right? That you're paying for. So you can set this up before you give them the phone, or after, if you've discussed the rules and you're setting them up, and really configure these in a way that's agreeable to both of you. You can also set content and privacy restrictions. That's where you'll put the settings in for age appropriate content, for instance, that many of you are interested in. So it's built into a lot of the devices that we are already using. There it is down there. So this is another area, right? So this is the content and privacy area within Screen Time. So you can restrict content in a lot of things, right? So in this case for Apple, you can restrict content in iTunes. So in other words, music that has explicit lyrics, if that's not something you want, you can restrict that. The apps in the App Store, if they're not appropriate for that age. Music I talked about, and websites as well. And you can lock down those permission settings so that only you can make changes to them. Android devices have a Google Family Link, same sort of idea. So you can put your settings in there for filtering different types of applications, limiting the screen time, and even tracking the location of the phone that your child is using. Now, of course, Google owns the infamous YouTube. Every kid in the world is probably using YouTube. YouTube also has something called a supervised account, and you can set content configuration in there for your child, whether it's just minimally explore, a little bit explore more, or most of YouTube. It's very easy on YouTube to get to some dicey and inappropriate content. So if your kid is using YouTube, a really good way of putting a little bit of a lockdown on there by setting up the supervised account. There's a question in the Q&A. Can someone hack into your IP? I need a little bit more of what the concern is there. Usually what happens is, and this doesn't happen very often, but it is possible, right? If someone were sitting in a car outside my front door using a wireless sniffing device, and I had a very lame password, or my kid knows my password and decided to share it with a friend for the router, right? Whatever it is, then they can come in and reconfigure things, or they might be able to monitor the traffic. If I'm not using a very secure password or no password, they can monitor all the Wi-Fi traffic in my home, right? You'd say, oh, who doesn't use a password for their home wireless network? You'd be surprised. And even more surprised at what some of those passwords are. So if you can actually sniff that, if you can intercept that traffic and now it's feeding this device and in the car outside my house, then you're in my network. TikTok. How many of you have kids using TikTok? Go ahead and chime in on the chat. A yes or a no. And I think most of our kids were youngish in this group. Anyone using TikTok? It's a quiet group.
Yeah. I'm sure there are people out there whose children, well, maybe they're using it, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Or they've watched TikTok over your shoulder when you looked at it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go for dances. Yes, of course. Who doesn't dance on TikTok? So earlier this year, TikTok announced something called family pairing. And that allows you to limit the content and the time that the kids spend on TikTok. So the prerequisite for that is you need to have TikTok might help too, but you need to have TikTok on your phone and your child's phone. So you need to have them both set up, or you could just set it up on, if your kid is using your phone because they don't have one yet, you can just set it up on yours. And the device has to be set up just for both of them. If there's two devices, have to be set up the first time. But once it's ready to go, you can limit the time and content from your phone while your kid uses TikTok on theirs. Yeah, Natalie, Snap is their favorite for photos and messaging and sharing. Okay, well, it depends on the age, really, right? If some of the kids even, Snapchat used to be the thing, and now it's Insta, because it's not Instagram. That wouldn't be cool to call it Instagram. It's Insta. So the way to use TikTok family pairing, there's the family pairing switch there. This is inside the app. You click that, go to family pairing. It'll ask you who is using it, right? So you assign each phone as a parent or child. And then you can set limits on the time and suitability of the content. And also who can send messages to them as well. So who their contacts are. So these are examples of tech tools that are already available. If you do a little research, you'll find them and how to set them up. This is Roblox. Sure, some of you have Roblox kids. Very cool little platform for the kids themselves to build games and play them, or play the games that other kids have created. Settings in there as well. Discord is really for the older kids, older teenagers, and a lot of college kids use them, but you never know, right? It's out there. So they'll use Discord if they can too. This also has an option for safe messaging. So in this case, with this screenshot, scanning direct messages from everyone, that is a good session, a good selection rather, so that we're sticking to appropriate content and making sure that the messages that your kid gets are the ones they are expecting to get and don't include anything age inappropriate. Yes, sometimes kids will block you. Yes, once they figure things out, right? So that's why it's important to sort of set these things up and set the rules so it doesn't seem like punishment, and it's not like we're going to big brother them to death. But there are rules, and using a phone and having a phone is a privilege, and mom and dad pay for that privilege. So if you'd like to use one, you'd like to have one, these are the rules. If you don't agree to those rules, or you don't want to agree to those rules, wait till you have enough money to buy your own. So Discord has who can add you as a friend also. So by default, I believe it's friend of friends. It could be everyone by default. See, that's the thing with a lot of the applications and a lot of the websites. They want you to be, their whole model, like Facebook, is sharing everything and not having the security settings. That's why they don't outwardly come out and say, hey, kids, here's the security settings and here's how you prevent from sharing, because that's not their model. So it's up to us to set those things up. So here we can set up either everyone can add as a friend or a friend of friends, only server members. So Discord's got some ways to lock down the content there too. And it also has a feature to block certain people from contacting and communicating. The game systems, remember we talked about the security on there too. So Xbox has something called family settings, where you can do things like address your kid who's begging for more screen time, or your kid who wants to add somebody as a friend. You can review that, allow it or not. So that's nice. I had this sort of issue with my boy, not with Xbox, but just with the PlayStation when he's at home and dad has to get up for work the next day and doesn't really want to hear a lot of screaming with shooting games at 1 a.m. There's a way with technology to make sure that the PlayStation also goes to sleep at a decent time. So there are ways to control these things. So in this case, the Xbox allows you to filter apps, limit screen time, as it shows you in the screenshot there, and approve any spending or friend requests. Now, Trend Micro, we are a security company. So if you go to tmfamily.care, you'll see something called Trend Micro Family there. We've got tools for you to help with digital parenting and to protect your kids on the internet, either for Android or iOS systems. So there's a lot of good resources there. This is something relatively new, which I know Lynette was really happy to see. Me too. I think it's great. More and more we get asked a lot of questions, and it's nice to have this hub to provide the tools and the guidance and suggestions and all kinds of stuff there. So check that out, tmfamily.care.
And Dave, let me just say really quickly, this is actually an app. This is actually a new app that we launched in addition to the resources. So to help you do some of the things, we're still developing it, but it is based on the 14 years that we've been doing this program. It was built based on that. So we would love for you to give it a try and give us your feedback and help us make it better. To do things like limiting screen time and filtering content and so on.
Thanks, Lynette. And we had a question, will we review Snap restrictions? I don't think we have Snapchat restrictions in this particular presentation.
We don't. But, Snap has a nice overview of what they're doing right now. If you did a quick search, one thing you should know about Snapchat, under the pressure of every big social media company right now, they're in the hot seat going to Capitol Hill and being grilled by our senators and Congress people. They decided to announce a new set of parental controls. They have not released it yet, but as soon as we see it, we certainly will be posting about it. So for now, you can do the basic things that you do in any other social media app, but something new is coming from Snapchat. And we would urge you to follow us on Twitter so you can hear as soon as that happens.
Cool. All right, let's talk about setting up the rules. So now we've set the environment. So now we have to set the rules, especially for younger kids. It's a really good idea to sit down and build these together. So not only for the positives of the rules, but the consequences for breaking them. Maybe, you lose phone privilege for a week or whatever it is. Because they're going to be more inclined to stick with the rules if they're invested in the creation of them. So it's a good idea to build them together. So for the first rule, it's what. So what are the apps that they're allowed to use? If a kid comes to you and about this fabulous new app that they want to download or a new game, do some homework, find out what it's all about, what it's used for, if there's anything that you should be aware of with it. Basically, more or less stick to the ones that are heavily reviewed. And if you have any questions, maybe another parent can help you out. I'm sure in a lot of these cases, the kids are not going to be wanting to use apps and games that nobody else is using, right? So there's going to be a lot of people in the same boat. So that's what apps are they allowed to use? Next is when. When are they allowed to use it? Now they're online for both school and for fun, especially now that we're in the pandemic, even more so. So we need to be clear about when tech should be used for fun. And one thing we use is a 24-hour exercise, which I'll talk about in a sec. And that helps the kids think about other activities that they can fill their day with other than screen time that are actually important and healthy for them, and how screen time can be fit into the day. And it can be fun to be fit into the day. Next is how long. How long can they be on? So if you let them have screen time for fun on a particular day, make sure that there are specific start and end times for that, right? It's not a totally open-ended privilege. And use tech tools like the ones that we talked about to help you out there. Where is next? Where can they be while using it? Everyone's at home, so where they are in the house is important. If they're going to be video chatting with a group of friends, then maybe you want a spot where you can sort of check in on them, but they can also use headphones if they want, right? And that's sort of for the computer too. If they're first getting into using a computer, and you have, let's say, a desktop that's non-mobile, so they can't take it into their bedroom or what have you, slap that desktop somewhere in a common area, family room, living room, wherever, that you're not sitting there watching over their shoulder all the time, but we're within striking distance of help, if they need something or they're not clear on something, or just to check in with them every so often and see how they're doing, or to remind them that it's break time. Next is with whom. With whom can they use it? So if kids are, especially if the kids just starting out on social media, or if they bought them a phone, it's their first phone ever, talk to them about who they can connect with. Maybe just for starters, it's family members and very close friends, so they can sort of get used to it. And if they want to add new people, if you've sort of built these rules together, they're more apt to come to you and say, hey, I want to add so and so to my list of contacts, and you can talk to them about it, and hey, that sounds okay, or no, that's not a good idea for whatever reason. So just keeping those lines of communication open as they're building their contact list is important. Again, you're paying for the phone service. You can let them know that every so often you may check the phone from time to time. If you're concerned about something, that is your prerogative, and that should be okay. So back to the 24-hour strategy. So this comes from the Center on Media and Child Health. So they look at screen time as one of the many things that kids can do in a day. So the idea here is, as it says, to fill up a 24-hour pie chart or write down a list and encourage the kids to think about all the things they do in a day to stay healthy, to learn and to care for their family, friends, home. So how much time do all those things take up in 24 hours? And have them write it down with you. So things that support their health, for instance, sleep. Obviously, we need that in a very big way. We need to sleep, we need to eat, and we need to exercise and get outside. So how much of that time, how much of the things that are supporting their health out of 24 hours are they including in their day? How much time to support them as learners? Now, school and homework and reading and hobbies, and some of those things, if their hobby is, say, video editing, that may also require screen time for that. That's okay. But that factors in here for things that support their learning. And next is things that support their relationships, time with family or friends and neighbors, socially distanced, of course. And those can also involve screen time, right? Because especially now, if we're in quarantine or just trying to stay safe and healthy, there can be a FaceTime video or a Zoom video or whatever, and that's screen time too. So it still factors in. So after we get done, after they get done writing down the things they do to support their health, how much of the 24 hours, things that support their learning, things that support their relationships, there's going to be time left over. So this whole exercise helps them prioritize and also see the screen time that could be part of their whole day, but the whole day includes a lot of other things. And it also helps sort of discourage them from seeing their tech time and screen time as taboo or forbidden fruit. Right? It puts everything into a healthier perspective. So it says, yes, you can use screen time to contact grandma on FaceTime. Yes, you can use screen time to learn how to edit video, and those things are good for you. So if there's time left over, what is that time spent doing? So it doesn't necessarily have to be something else that uses screen time. Right? Just because, let's say, there are 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours left over, it doesn't mean that they should be on screens that whole time, that whole extra time. All right. So stick to whatever limits you've set with the rules and use the tools that we talked about to enforce these things. And finally, remind your kids that being a good digital citizen and using technology in safe and kind and healthy ways is very important. And if they ever have any questions, that they should always feel comfortable coming to you and asking you. And you will always take the position of supporting them and wanting to help them and not casting judgment or coming back with no, 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 right? So the more that we are amenable to those types of things, the more they're going to come to us and the more they're going to feel comfortable coming to us. One nice thing is with that time left over, you can create a little menu or activity box. You take a bunch of pieces of paper, write down some fun things to do or some alternative things to do that don't involve screen time, fold them up, chuck them in a box, and your kid picks out one to use for that time left over. And it's sort of a fun way to approach that as well. And lastly, we want to set that example. So I'm going to ask you right now in the chat window, if you are so inclined, throw some examples in there of some rules you have for yourself when it comes to tech and screen time. See what we've got.
Do you have any, Dave?
I do. One of my favorites is I absolutely do not bring my phone to meals or any device to meals. Unless I'm by myself. So if there are other people that I'm meeting with, I want to talk to and interact with my kids, and if they're here, and check on their day, see how things are going. That's one big one. So no screens during meals.
That's a good one.
Bathroom definitely out. No devices in the bathroom.
Bathroom and driving, and there's a few other places where it's not okay.
Yes.
Probably.
Right. Yeah. Driving that's a good one. And that's also a tricky one, right? Because
it is.
Especially when you have, you have Alexa in the car and you have Apple CarPlay and the kids will have their devices, but you hope when you're teaching them all the things to think about while driving that putting the phone in the glove compartment and which it will still connect to the car system that way via Bluetooth.
Yeah.
You never want them looking at the device while they're driving. So, and certainly not holding it, which is illegal in a lot of states now. Nobody have any rules? Oh, well, no devices during mealtime. Yeah. So there may be a bunch that you might have for yourself. More importantly is how do we model that behavior with our tech for our kids, right? And just to take this example of no devices during mealtime, that's all well and good. Now, what do you do if you're sitting at the table? There are no devices at the table, and in the distance, you hear your cell phone ring, right? Do we get up and run to it? Nope. I say no, because that is the same thing as having a device at the table, right? That is our time to chill, to relax, to check in with each other, have a laugh, have a good time, and to ignore the fact that whatever is happening on our phone will be there after dinner too. So that's one example. So how we model for our kids, they learn, they see, they record, they watch, they learn everything that we do. And the more we model the kinds of behaviors that we want them to have when it comes to tech, the more they're going to carry those behaviors forward. So be safe, talking about privacy, information, and self. Privacy settings, remember those things that nobody really wants you to use, but it's up to us to know where they are and to use them. Here's my kids' formerly favorite game, which was Fortnite. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. I think Call of Duty is the big one now, or NHL. Big hockey fans in this house. But Fortnite, believe it or not, has privacy settings, as do a lot of these games and apps and websites. If you just click on what's referred to commonly as the hamburger menu up top, which is a series of lines that look like a very boring hamburger, you will get to the menu of settings. And one of those, as you can see, is all about privacy. And if you select that, you'll get your choice of when you're playing a game. Are you available to the public? Are you available only to friends? Or is it private? And yep, chatting's a big thing here too, right? Now, the important thing when we talk to kids about privacy is one question Lynette and I often ask them is, let's talk about some of the apps you use. Let's say Snapchat, for instance, because that's what we have here, Snapchat. Is it free? And the kids don't spend much time thinking about that at all. And they, of course, say, yeah, I don't pay anything for it. And Lynette and I will say, oh, you do. And let me show you why. Because if you look at this licensing agreement that you just click on accept without reading about it, you will find language in there that basically says you own everything on your device, but what you post we can use wherever, whenever, and for whatever purpose we want. So and that's what we're agreeing to. So what you're paying for to use these apps is you're paying with your privacy. Best to assume that nothing is private. Snapchat, I believe it was Snapchat or Instagram, whichever one had the disappearing pictures, right? Whatever you post there disappears after a few seconds. Sure, it disappears from your device, but it got backed up to hundreds of other servers across the world that Snapchat uses to store the content. So it's really best to assume nothing is private, because once you're online, that's basically very true. Protecting your information. So there is another group of people that want nothing more than to access the information of our kids for whatever purposes, not all the times good. They're not really going after kids specifically, but they're using all kinds of tricks. They know kids are online using apps and games all the time. And so they're going to be victims of cybercrime at some point, and the bad guys know that. So these are some of the examples that kids might fall into that you'll want to talk to about with them into a cyber criminal's trap. So one is the fake search results or poison search results. Basically, that centers around a well-known event that's happening in the world, in this case, like Michael Jackson's death. And so if Michael Jackson dies, what's the first thing kids going to do, right? Go to the web browser, Michael Jackson death, and they click enter on Google. They Google it, and the search results come up. And guess what? Just because the first search result came up in that position, it doesn't mean it's legit. Cyber criminals know that kids are going to go after that information, and they know that they can use all kinds of tools and search engine shenanigans to make sure that their results pop up higher than the others. And so kids don't know that. They'll just click on the first link they see, not looking at where the link is that they're going, and they may go to a site that will download something to their machine and otherwise not be a good place to go. Second is offers that just seem too good to be true. My kid came running to me when he was very little, and Dad, I can get a free iPod. It's like, all I need is to put your credit card in number in there, but they're not going to charge you. It's free. So we had a little discussion after that about what free is all about. Content that is really interesting and just so interesting. It's so interesting that you've got to click on it. An example of this is, hey, here's a movie trailer for the new James Bond movie, but in order to watch it, you have to click here to download a special player. Yeah, bad trap. Because that special player is usually an application that's infected with a virus, or it's going to download some other things to your machine as well. And the last one is kind of tricky here. This is fake news information, fake information that gets posted in social media posts. Now, if Lynette and I are on Facebook and I get this story on my timeline, it says breaking news: Lady Gaga found dead in hotel room. I'm like, no, really? That can't be true. And then above that, where it's grayed out, if Lynette's account's been compromised, it could say, hey, your friend Lynette Owens likes a link. And I'm like, wow, this is legit. Lynette liked it. And boom, off I go and click on it. So that's another way that the kids might get trapped into a cyber criminals trap. So all of them are trying to get the kids to click and or download or put something, give them some information that they probably would normally not want to give. So what can we tell our kids? Number one is to use websites that are secure. And the way you can tell that is their address begins with HTTPS. That is for the secure part of the website, and stick to sites that they know and trust. By the way, HTTPS sites does not mean that the site is completely safe and secure, but it is a lot better than a site that is not. So if it looks too good or if it looks suspicious, don't click on it. A very easy way to tell sometimes is to hover your mouse over the link and wait. Don't click on it, and see what comes up as the link you're going to. A lot of times, especially, you can do that in emails. If you think it's coming from Apple or Microsoft and you hover your mouse over and it's somebody at Gmail, so you know it's completely illegitimate. If it seems to be too good to be true, it probably is. So there's a lot of just awareness around this. And security software will help with this too, and pick up and examine any links, for instance, and make sure that the kids can't click on something that will go somewhere malicious potentially. All right. So, hey, it's poll time. Where's my poll window? There it is. Okay, question. Do any of your kids have their own cell phones? So the poll is launched, and your answer choices are A, yes; B, no; C, not yet but soon; or D, no way, Jose, not at least for another few more years. So go ahead and put your answers in there.
Yeah, one of the questions we get a lot, Dave, how old should they be before they get a phone?
What's the right age?
And very often I remember parents saying, so if you just tell me what that age is, I can go home and tell my kid that they said that you can't have a phone until you're this old. And unfortunately, the answer is not so simple, but I would encourage you, if you haven't answered the poll, how old, or do any of your kids have a cell phone? Yes, no, A, B, C, or D? Are we able to see the poll?
I think we've stunned everyone. I'm seeing
I don't know.
I'm seeing no responses so far. Hopefully
you can
we
put
didn't
it in the
scare them
chat.
away. And not accepting. Uh-oh.
It's not accepting the answers. Okay, something's
they
wrong.
They can't submit their answer. Oh well. All right, go ahead and put it in the chat then. There's
yeah.
We don't have too many people where that's going to be overwhelming. The poll hasn't started.
It's weird. Yeah, because I see it started, but
see? Oh well.
Okay.
Okay, we have an A, yes. Are you trying again?
No, I just ended it.
Oh, you ended it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
A,
thinking about it.
a.
Yeah. How old is the child that you're thinking about it with? 10.
Yes, the
Yeah,
magic age,
that
double
is tough.
digits. Yeah,
That is tough.
yeah. You would not be alone though if you did a very like with our kids when they entered middle school, they were taking the bus for the first time, and we're going to be home alone for a period of time. So we went with a Go phone, which is a prepaid option through AT&T. You know, very basic, only Wi-Fi connection to do anything with it other than 4 phone numbers that they could have on the phone when they were on the bus. And that's how we started them off. Eventually, when they got older, they showed that they could not lose it, keep it charged, not use up all the money that we prepaid. We moved on to, a higher level phone, which was a pass down from mom and dad.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Here, you can have my old iPhone because I'm getting a new
That's how
one.
we get all our new devices.
That's exactly how it works in our
We do the
house. It's
shuffle down.
fine.
Sure.
Yep. Yep.
Can you imagine the look on your kid's face if you say, "Oh, you want a phone? Sure, here," and you just give them a flip phone, an actual phone, which does nothing else other than make phone
Yeah.
calls? You're like, "What?
Yes.
What is this?
Yeah.
It doesn't have any apps on it." Nope, but you can call me anytime you need me. I don't want that. So yeah, there's that too.
Oh
Was that
no.
was that Go phone? Was it just a phone?
Yeah, I mean, no, it
Yeah.
was a smartphone. It was a
Oh, it
smartphone. It
was a
had a
smartphone.
browser,
Okay,
it had apps. Yeah, but we limited the amount of things they could put on it until they showed us that they were
gotcha.
responsible. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and once the kid gets the device, they're going to be smarter than you. So be be prepared. Do some research up front. Okay, Lynette, you want to take this one?
I sure,
This is a good one
absolutely,
for you.
Dave. Yeah, and I just want to say that there's a lot about phones that we could talk about, and phones alone could have taken up all the time. But we just want to call your attention to one thing in particular about the phones, and that's their favorite feature, which is the camera. Because with that camera, uh, they can do a lot of things, including fully participate in social media. But also they can capture moments in their lives that they care about, pictures of the people they love, and they can, real time live chat on FaceTime or, whatever house party, whatever kinds of apps they use to chat with friends, Instagram live, so on. But we've been working with a few nonprofits over the years, and because of the pandemic, there was an increase, an alarming trend, something you as parents should really pay attention to. And that is, there has been a rise in self produced images of children, in images they would not want the whole world to see. Okay. And they're not necessarily being coerced by strangers online. Okay. Not all that, it's certainly fewer cases where it's a stranger who's pretending to be a younger person. Hey, send me a picture, right? Um, Very often it's people they know in school, people who they go to school with saying, if you really like me, send me a picture, those kinds of pictures. And we just want to make sure that you, as parents, before you give them that phone, or even if you've already given them that phone, please have a conversation about the camera. Please remind your children and encourage them to never feel pressured to send one of those pictures to anybody, not even to take the picture in the first place. Because as Dave talked about earlier, if you are backing up your files to iCloud for Apple devices or Google backup services, that just taking the photo already puts them at risk because now it's going to be backed up automatically and now there's another copy of it out there. So remind your children not to feel that pressure. Technically, the production, distribution, and possession of those kinds of images of underage people is technically a felony. It's not that they're going to punish young people for doing this, not the way they would if it was somebody older. But just as important is how a child will feel if such an image of them like that gets out there. I'm purposely not calling it by its name because I'm not sure who's listening on the line tonight, but I think you all know what I mean. The second thing I wanted to share about these kinds of images, because these do present a big risk today. And I want to share a question I was asked by a father about 7 or 8 years ago. He said, my son is a really good kid, but what if he receives one of those pictures from a classmate? I'm worried because the phone bill is in my name. So how will they know that it was sent to my son versus me, right? And here is our advice to you. If this ever happens, and again, make this part of the conversation you have with your children when you give them that phone for the first time or before. If you ever receive one of those, do not send it to anybody. Don't share it with anybody. Make sure your child comes to you and lets you know. Okay. They need to take action of some kind. So their responsibility is to come tell you, or if it happens in school, maybe they can tell a school administrator that they trust. Then delete it. Okay. Do not walk around with it. Do not further send it around. And then you as a parent, if you know the parents of the child who sent it and you feel comfortable, maybe you want to address that parent or parents. If you don't feel comfortable, you should report the incident to the school. And this is why you have no idea who else it could have been sent to. And if that's the case, there could be an investigation. And if there's investigation, they're already going to know it went from this IP address to this one. They'll know it went from some child's phone to your child's phone. So do not walk around with it, don't possess it, but do take action. Okay, your child coming to you and then you reporting it to someone else. And really that's the best thing you can in these circumstances. Hopefully this will never happen to you, but have the conversation.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that's another reason why at the young age the rules include no phones in the bathroom, because that's actually the one place they know you will not come, and it's their one private place. So, your ears might perk up if you have a lot of phone going in the bathroom activity, right? Just something to keep an eye out for. Okay, so let's talk about protecting yourself. Gaming with other people is, of course, a favorite activity of our kids. It's got plenty of benefits, right? They're solving problems with their friends. They're improving maybe their peripheral vision. They're solving puzzles, pathfinding, hand-eye coordination, all that good stuff. But it is also a very large and anonymous environment, especially the online games, right? And most of these games, especially like the PlayStation ones, but even the ones on the phone or the iPad, are played in very large online communities. And so there is chat that happens with a lot of those games. If they're not downloaded from reputation on a good site with a good reputation, they can be infected. So, but a lot of it is basically around, language and offensive or inappropriate content. And a lot of that comes with, depending on what features the game has, whether it's chat or, I don't know too many of them where you can actually send images. I think most of it is talking. But especially if your kid is wearing headphones when they play the game, we can't hear the conversation that's going on, right? We do have a handout for you on gaming. We do have a resource for that online, so it's got a lot of advice there, so that when your kid is gaming online, that you've taken all the necessary precautions for that. But of course, on the device that you're playing the games, make sure the antivirus, anti-malware software is updated. Don't play any, make sure they're not downloading any special versions of the games, right? Only ones that are on the legitimate sites for download, because the sites that have illegal copies are usually the ones that are also infected. And some of them also have hidden charges, right? So even though the game is free, they do have in-app purchases and things that contribute to that too. So some of those might be okay. Some of those you might have to limit with some of the tools that we talked about. But just make sure that they know from you the kids are respectful of the other kids they're playing games with when they're online, and they keep their reputation solid. All right, our last section tonight, I believe, or next to last, is kindness. So we want to encourage our kids that they should start everything and lead everything with kindness. Number one, because it's the right thing to do. But number two, more importantly, it reflects on you. Respect others' privacy, family rules and values. Now, this can be an interesting one, right? If your rule at home says you can't play this particular game because you don't feel it's appropriate for them, and then they go over to a friend's house where those parents say, "Hey, that game is fine," or they just don't care and let them play whatever they want. That can get a little tricky, but it's something that you can talk to the other parents about. Say, "Hey, this is our rules at home. Please be respectful when my kid comes over and monitor the usage there so they're not playing that game." And respect the time also, right? The time allowed to play, the time offline. Be supportive of your friends, and be prepared also. So we have to show them what kindness looks like by modeling that behavior, right? And being kind to yourself too. So this is a big one that we spend a lot of time talking to the kids about, because we really need to remind them. They get very caught up in how they're perceived online. They get anxiety over it, how they're perceived by their peers, and that can get worse on social media, and it can even be on games as well. So what we really need to get forth to kids is that they are not equal to the number of likes or the number of retweets or the number of friend requests or the number of followers they have. This does not define who they are as a person. They're much more than what those individual numbers mean. And as parents, we have to remind them and show them through all the ways we show them our love, and give them that self-confidence and that feeling that this is just the online world, and this is how things go there. It does not reflect on you as a person. And it gets me sometimes, because I see that, especially with the posting of the pictures online, and everyone comes through, "Oh, stunning, gorgeous, beautiful." It's like, is everyone stunning and gorgeous and beautiful, really? And it's just they get so much of that if they don't get that, then it's a big problem. And so we really need to constantly remind them that they're not the number of likes. They're not a reflection of whatever opinions of them have been posted online. And lastly is be savvy. So this is all about good habits and good use. Now, one of the things we talk about here is false information. Is everything we see online believable? Is it the truth? Is it based in fact? So I saw some comment in the chat about some people will create a fake social media profile and use that. Yeah, absolutely. So how do we know if it's a real person behind it? Any pictures that are posted online, in this case, it's Instagram. I will call it Instagram, and copied over to a new account. So this is not original Joe. This is somebody else that set up an account, maybe as Joe or whatever it is, but they've used the same picture. So whatever pictures are posted, they can be used in that way to create a fake profile. So it's also important for us kids to realize that people are not always posting things that are true. There are fake profiles. There is fake information. And sometimes they're going to see something and say, "Oh, wow, that's really cool. I need to share that with everyone," without really researching into it. And not everything is what it seems, right? So if they see something that's so incredible, they need to share it right away, we try to tell them to do two things before you do that. Pause, right? Just pause and question before you're reacting to it, and ask yourself some questions about that content. So these are the questions. Why was this made? Right? So these are some of the things you can practice asking with your kids before they share something. Have them just go through this list and read through it. Don't let somebody else fool you. And if you're constantly, what we tell our kids is, if you're constantly sharing things that aren't true, what does that say about you, and how does that reflect on you? So why was this made? Who made it? For what purpose? What's missing? Is there any missing information here? Is it incomplete in some way? How might different people interpret the information here? How do I know this is true? Right? I have a rule in my email that deletes everything forwarded from my dad. If it has FWD : in it and it's from my dad, it goes boom right in the box, because whatever he gets, he just forwards to me. And 9 times out of 10, God bless him, I love him to the end of the earth, but he gets all this junk that he doesn't check out. But he's 85, he gets a pass. But it goes right into the delete pile. Who might benefit from this message, right? Who might be harmed by this message, right? Another thing to think of. So these are just some of the questions that help. And we also have a nice guide, a parent's guide to media literacy, that we've built with Namely, building healthy relationships with media, that's going to help out with these things too. So it helps kids figure out, what's real, what's not, what are the questions that I really need to ask before I decide to share this thing. Now, one of the things to do to encourage good habits is you could Google yourself. How many people have Googled yourself? Go ahead and admit it in the chat if you've Googled yourself. I Googled myself, especially for this presentation, because it's important to know who your, as Lynette calls it, your cyber twin. Who's your cyber twin? And what kind of reputation do you have, does your name have, that you may not, where Natalie's going to Google herself now. Go for it. So here is my my Google page just a few days ago. So what can I find out about this? Well, even though that's not my middle initial, the first link there is I'm the co-chair of Lock Lord's FDA regulatory group, which is nice because I focus on complex patent litigation. Okay. There's a principal, Georgetown Law. The IMDb one I found was rather interesting because I am known for my work on Highlander, MacGyver, and who could forget V, favorite sci-fi show there. So important to know. And Google has alerts that you can set up to, if you want to know every time your name is mentioned in something, for instance, you can set up an alert with Google and find out. And I think that's in here. It was. Oh, maybe that got taken out.
Yeah, if you go back and you just wave your mouse, it'll start
wave
the
my
video.
mouse. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I knew it was there. So you go to google.com. Look at this, it's live, /alerts. And you can create an alert about anything you want. So if I want to know every time Trend Micro is mentioned online, right? I type in Trend Micro, I hit my options. How often do I want to, every time it happens in this case? What are the sources? I'll just be automatic, blogs, whatever, automatic. What language do I want to know about? In my case, English. Region, do I care? Sure, if I want to, but you can set it for anything. I'll leave it any region. How many results do you want? Okay, I'm going to ask for them all. And then you put your email address in there, which is typically your Google email address, whatever you registered on Google with, and you create the alert. That's all there is to it. And you can do this for anything. You can do it for an application. You can do it for, in this case, my company. You can do it for your name. You can do it for your kid's name. So there's a lot you can do there.
Yeah. I just want to comment here too, by the way, when you set a Google alert for your child's name or your own, the only things that will come back are information that's publicly indexable. So
right,
anything you post behind privacy settings on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat will not appear here. But if you don't have privacy settings, then it will.
Yep. Oh, yeah, no. Thank you, Victoria. I am taking voice acting, Victoria, but I know even though I acted in high school, I chose the Trend Micro path. That is not me. I am not on IMDb yet. Someday I'll be a famous voice actor. All right. So this is kind of cool. This comes to us from a Kaplan Institute survey. So let's talk about this number, 65%. What do we think that is? Take a stab on the chat if you want. Do 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 do.
I'm just going to have to say it's probably the chances that the New England Patriots win the Super Bowl.
What's that?
Sorry. I just had to say it.
It's the chance what?
The New England Patriots may go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
just
see.
joking. I'm
all right. Okay, so this comes from an annual study done by Kaplan Institute every year. They survey colleges and university admissions officers across the U.S., and they ask them, do you believe that looking at an applicant's social media postings is fair game? And 65% of them said yes. Now, if we look further down the line, of those, 58% who looked actually found something bad. And I know a real world example of this. There was an athlete here locally who got a scholarship, field hockey scholarship, and she was all set to go. And there was an article in the paper that they took it away from her because they had gone online and found some things that she had posted that were not consistent with the kind of person they wanted to represent their team and their university. So it's crazy, I know, because when we were kids, we could basically do anything and not have to worry about someone across the world knowing what we did, or someone 16 years later when we were applying for college knowing about it, whatever it is. But now the kids, everything they do, since 90+% of it probably is online, has consequences. And it's critical to explain to them that there is no delete or I'm sorry button on the internet. Once you post whatever content you post, it's there. And it's backed up on lots of servers. So 58% found something bad. More importantly, 42% found something good. And that's why when we talk about creating these starting these digital portfolios or online portfolios of the things that kids like to do, they're going to be important later on when they apply to college, for example. So encouraging good uses of the internet, learning new skills. Maybe they have a hankering to make videos or edit their own videos, make their own movies. All these devices have video cameras at this point where they can start doing that, and there's tons of sites that will teach you all kinds of skills if it's something like that, or they want to code and they can go on Code Academy or Udemy or tons of sites that a lot of the stuff is free to teach them new skills. And by the way, that's something that during the pandemic or when we were sort of coming out-ish of the pandemic and people were applying for jobs, a lot of the people that were hiring were asking the question, tell me something you taught yourself during the pandemic, because they want to see if you have that kind of downtime, what are you doing to better yourself? What skills are you learning? And so it is very important for them to use the internet for those purposes. Promoting a cause, something they believe in, the environment or animals or whatever it is that floats their boat, right? Raising funds for a cause, an important cause. And like I mentioned before, showcasing their accomplishments, sites where they can upload if they like to write, they can do writing or upload videos if maybe they're not old enough for their own YouTube channel, but there are other places too, especially one that we like to talk about, which is entering contests. We have one every year where we put out something about the internet for the kids to think about, and then they can submit a video to the contest and win fabulous prizes and money. So there are tons of contests out there. Ours is called What's Your Story? But there are so many contests where they can submit videos or written work, all kinds of things. Maybe they want to be able to, maybe they have a hankering for teaching and they want to show how to do something. So lots of ways to make good uses, learn those skills and to make good uses of them. We actually recently just put out something at trendmicro.com/internet-safety, which is our home on the Trend Micro, our Cyber Academy. So these are individual modules that go through a bunch of these things, and they're sort of cartoonish, so they're appealing for the kids, so the young kids. Passwords, two-factor authentication, privacy, security, healthy habits. And every one of them comes with the animated video, an activity sheet, a Kahoot quiz. If you're not familiar with Kahoot, it's a app that people use. It's on a website or an app to create quiz questions. A lot of our instructors use it here to reinforce the learning after they teach a module. So they ask multiple choice questions to the students, for example. And there's also a conversation guide, so to guide you in how to have conversations about those things with your kids. We have a bunch that are coming soon: camera safety, safety settings, and so on. So please check that out and provide us with some feedback on how effective you think those are and how you're able to use them. Secondly, keep it going. So stay active, communicate, especially with the kids constantly. There are so many apps coming out all the time, and today's Snapchat is going to be tomorrow's something else, right? So it's great sometimes to, when you're trying to stay up to date with these things, maybe to pair up with another parent and try this app that your kid is interested in and see what it's like to use it and what kinds of things can be done with it. But really our challenge today for all of you is to do one new thing based on everything you've seen here. Do one new thing, maybe pair up with a parent or establish rules with your kid if you don't have those, or talk about the things that we've spoken about tonight. But one new thing. Questions? And I think we've got enough people where if you, can they unmute? I don't know if they can unmute or not.
We can unmute them if they want to speak up.
Oh, we can unmute. Okay.
Yes. So you can
Maybe
raise
they
your
can
hand or put it in the chat.
raise their hand with the, I don't even know if that's what's available to them, but, or just put in the chat at this point if you've got any questions.
Yeah, we answered a lot of them through the evening.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Yeah. So let's just quickly review what's available to you for resources. trendmicro.com/internet-safety. That's where we've got a ton of information for you. So please visit that. We've also got the Family Tech Talk, which is this. So we keep, there's a blog, teachers list, a blog? Yes.
This is PTO Today's resources. So in partnership with them, they've created some too. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so that is with PTO Today. Lastly, of course, maybe the most important part, after this ends, does this come up automatically, Lynette, or do they need to go to this site?
It should come up automatically when you leave the Zoom. And if you choose to, please enter your email so you can win.
Your browser should redirect you here.
Yeah.
But if not, go to our internet safety site, PTO Today-feedback, and let us know how useful this information was. I'm sure it asks you a bunch of questions about suggestions and so forth. But really, it's important for us to get your feedback because we want to keep these as focused and informative and helpful as we can. And if you do fill out the survey, tell them what they'll win. Well, you could win a free 1-year subscription for 5 devices. Our Trend Micro Maximum Security software is our anti-bad thing software, and you can use it on up to 5 devices: desktop, laptop, tablet, phone. It's available for all of those. And so include your email in the feedback form, and we'll put you in the draw. Lastly, just want to say a giant thank you to our school system from Brooklyn that joined us tonight for my happy place of New York. I am David Abramowitz. That is Lynette Owens. She's our fearless leader, and we absolutely love doing this. If this is something that you want to set up another presentation for, then just let us know. We have an email address, internet_safety@trendmicro.com.
Yep.
And we're happy to help out in any way we can.
And muchas gracias to Gigi, who was our interpreter
Yes.
with us tonight. Thank you so much, Gigi, for staying up so late from Berlin.
We should say danke.
Dankeschön. Yeah.
Dankeschön. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
all right.
Yeah, thank you. And the recording will be made available as soon as our team does their magic to it. We'll make that available to the people who organize this event for your school tonight. And we appreciate your feedback. And we also encourage you, if there were family members or other people who did not get to attend tonight, we're still hosting several more between now and next May.
Yep.
So if you visit our website, trendmicro.com/internet-safety, you will see all of those future dates on the events. You might get lucky and have Dave or me again. You might have others of our wonderful team with you if you do attend.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night, everyone. And if we don't talk to you before, a safe, happy holiday season, and stay safe and virus free and all that good stuff. Virus.
Thank you, everyone.
Always in one these days. Take care.